Media. It's powerful.
It changes people's
Behavior and influence how they think in their everyday life. New media and social media have connected people in ways that they have never seen before. Politics affects everyday life, even in ways people may not realize. The Mediator tells the story of a changing information world. Can media shape your beliefs and affect your political behavior? We recently went out to UW-Madison to interview political science professors. We asked them questions about how media can shape political behavior through people and young adults.
Alright, so if you could please tell us your name and your area of your most recent research.
So my name is Barry Burton. I'm a professor of political science here at UW, and most of my recent research is on election reform, election administration, how elections are run effectively.
The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and the Colbert Report have grown immensely in popularity. They're not just funny, but look a lot like real news. Can this lead to misinformation?
I don't know that they lead to misinformation. They probably lead to selective information. So if all you know is from what you've seen on The Daily Show, I'd rather you know those things than not know those things, but there are a lot of topics that get left out. Those kinds of shows also pick up topics that are left out by other media, so it's complementary. One of our graduate students, who is in journalism and mass communication, has now left, and she's an assistant professor elsewhere, was doing research on the effects of The Daily Show and Saturday Night Live, doing experiments where some people would be shown clips from the shows, a variety of clips, and others not. And there were real effects. You know, when people were watching The Daily Show, they were somewhat more knowledgeable about politics. They were somewhat more trusting about politics, believe it or not. They were somewhat more willing to vote. So I think they largely have positive effects. It's really filled in a gap for a particular demographic that wasn't there.
Now let's move on to social media, which includes internet and social networking. We also interviewed the college Democrat and Republican representatives here at Madison. We asked them questions of how media affects them and impacts them in their lives. Has social media changed how you spread your information and beliefs to people?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that, you know, it's funny, you look at a website like Twitter, and the ease to spreading information is just absolutely amazing. Over the past couple of years, with the increased use of Twitter, you're able to get news at a lot faster rate than you would by going to a website or watching it on the news. Our grandparents' parents grew up, not really grandparents, but more of our parents grew up in a generation where you always got your news, on the nightly news at 6 o'clock. And we're getting news 24/7 at a much faster speed and from multiple different sources. So I think that's really great to be able to have those different perspectives. I found out about Osama bin Laden's death because of Twitter. I happened to be on Twitter right at the time when the news was starting to break, and then I turned on the news and it hadn't even hit the news yet. So I definitely think that a lot of social media and stuff like that helps with the education process, and that's important, and it helps give a lot of different points of view. You have to be careful though, because not all sources are really that newsworthy, and they're not really that credible always, so you got to be careful about that. But definitely it's helped our organization spread our message a lot easier. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter.
What are your thoughts about how an increased number of people rely on social media and networking to obtain their political knowledge?
I wish we knew more about exactly how people use, say, Facebook to get news. It's possible to get all the same news you were getting before Facebook by liking the Washington Post and liking PBS and liking C-SPAN and those high quality news outlets, and get that news fed to you in a more regular way. That might be more efficient. We might have a more informed electorate. I worry that's not exactly what's happening. I doubt the Washington Post has as many friends as TMZ does. So it's the fact that it's combining all this stuff. It's entertainment and news and sports and your friendships and all this thing all in one. I think that lets the politics not be as important as it could be.
We conducted another interview with Alexander Toff, a former New York Times employee. His questions also pertain to social media and how it impacted him. How has social media affected you personally while you worked for the New York Times?
So I didn't actually join Twitter until this summer, which was around the time I was leaving my job. And I only joined it because I was thinking I would do a little bit of freelancing, and as a freelance writer, it's really important because it's a great way of distributing your work and making connections between people. When you're a staffer, unless you're using it in your day-to-day reporting, it's not that important. I found, at least. But something like Facebook, on the other hand, or LinkedIn actually, I've heard a number of reporters talk about how LinkedIn is actually really useful as a reporting device, because people will post their whole resume, more or less, and if you're looking for somebody, you can find a lot of information about them that way. Less so with Facebook, because it's more personal life stuff.
Offering support to underprivileged youth can help them be more engaged in their schoolwork and community, even after they leave school. I recently interviewed Latasha Shell of Kenosha Unified School District. She is the current coordinator of student engagement and equity. The 21st Century Community Learning Center is a federally funded after-school program aimed at helping kids do better in school. It was started by the No Child Left Behind movement by President Bush. The CLC gives opportunities to poor and underprivileged kids. I asked her questions that pertain to the 21st Century Community Learning Center.
21st Century Community Learning Center program is actually one of the many programs that this office provides to students, and it's a community learning center in the sense that we provide after-school care for students across the district. We have about 14 sites where students attend, and during that time after school they participate in quite a few activities where they get to learn new things, go new places. And so they get academic help, they eat a nutritious snack, they participate in a lot of enrichment. And so while there, we're hoping that they're gaining access to a lot of skills to help them be independent and contributing to the society rather well.
Can you think of any examples of specific success stories?
For schools where they have a CLC, those students go to school at a higher rate than students who don't go to CLC at that school. So specifically at one of our schools, they might go to school 94% regular students, but kids who go to CLC go about 96%. So we'd like to say that because that has happened at all of our sites, there must be something in it at the Community Learning Center that helps students want to come to school so that they can be successful.
What kind of relationship do you have with the Boys and Girls Club?
Well, we have, under the No Child Left Behind Act, when that fund is sent down to the states, which is Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, they have some guidelines that we have to meet in order to apply for those grants, which pays for the programs and after school. One of the guidelines that they have is that in order for us to even get the grant or to qualify for it, we have to partner with an agency. And that makes sense because think about it. If they just gave the money to schools, we would just do school business all day. If they just gave it to community agencies, they would just do community things all day. So because it comes with an academic focus, meaning we are as educators more skilled, I would say, in being able to educate kids, we do though realize that to educate kids comes with a lot of different things. You know, are their basic needs met? How are they feeling socially? How are they feeling emotionally? So we get that we need to partner with other agencies who have that as a focus because that's perhaps their expertise. And so combined, we'd like to say that relationships such as with the Boys and Girls Club, a community-based organization who has all of those enrichment and all of those opportunities, combined with them, that effort might be the niche for why our students can be successful.
What influenced you and motivated you to become involved in the CLC?
Well, actually, ever since I've been working, I've always worked in a capacity where I'm a social worker by trade. And so I've always worked in a capacity where I'm working for the underdog, so to speak, or I'm championing a cause, or I'm representing the ones that don't speak up, or I'm representing those that don't get looked at very often. And so I'm always coming from that angle in my previous work. And so that has always allowed me to be confident and comfortable with becoming a voice for some that may not be heard. Not that they don't always speak, but that they might not be heard.